Welcome back to the series of lectures on Paradise Lost, Book 1. Till the last class, we have seen the details of all the lines that are written in Paradise Lost, Book 1 by John Milton. And by all those descriptions, till now you might have understood the general makeup of Book 1. You might have also understood the themes when you read the Book 1, text of Book 1, and you also have got certain idea regarding how are the characters in Book 1. But now let us systematically analyze the different themes that are profoundly seen in Book 1. So these are the prominent themes that we find in book number 1 of Paradise Lost. Book 1 chiefly speaks about evil nature. Although it is about the creation of pandemonium in hell, in general, if we look at book 1, it is majorly speaking about the evil nature that is seen in the world, symbolized in the characters like Satan, Beelzebub, Mammon and Mulciber. There are very few, or rather no positive characters in book 1 to be seen there. All of them are negative characters. So book 1 speaks mostly about negativity in the human nature, symbolized through evil angels. When we look at the different themes, this is the first theme that we find strikingly in book number 1, that is importance of obedience to God. In the beginning lines itself, when we see the invocation, we see how poet John Milton himself is obedient to God. The act of obedience is believing in the power, in the omnipresence, omniscience of God. Thereby, the poet John Milton asks for God's help in writing this epic Paradise Lost. Further, in the next few lines, there is the description of how these evil angels are thrown out of heaven. So it is a kind of warning given by Paradise Lost to the readers. If we don't be obedient to the God, if we are not obedient to the good powers, this will be the fate of those humans. In the same way, all the evil angels fall out of heaven because they are disobedient to God. The first line of the poem itself, of man's first disobedience. So the whole poem, Paradise Lost, is about obedience and disobedience. On one side, you have obedient characters such as Adam and Eve, which we find in the later books. And on the other side, we have disobedient characters like Satan and his followers. There is always a constant struggle between disobedient and obedient characters who have different kind of attitude towards heaven and God. And later, throughout the epic, it is commonly seen that those who are obedient to God will be blessed and those who are disobedient will be cursed by God himself. And that is the result we see in the downfall of the characters to hell, which is such a horrible place. So that is absolutely clear in book number 1. For example, I will read the God supports those who are obedient to him. That's why it is written in the invocation, O Spirit that dost prefer before all temples the upright heart and pure. On one side, again you see the creation of pandemonium as the temple. These evil angels and Satan particularly, they believe in the construction of a materialistic temple. They build a temple with raw materials which are very costly. They believe in creation of concrete temple, whereas God believes in the creation of abstract temple, that is nothing but a pure heart, and pure heart symbolizes obedience to God. Later, in the further lines as well, he wants to show how these evil angels fell. They fell into the into the hell, because they raised impious war in heaven and battled proud with vain attempt. So they were raging against God. It was a sort of disobedience itself. That is why they were thrown out of hell, thrown out of heaven. Later, this obedience or disobedience, through Satan's disobedience, see, it is not directly implied in this poem. Alright. What will happen to disobedient people is clearly shown, and the opposite thing will happen to those who are obedient to God. Since Satan, so it is shown in terms of contrast. This, if you are disobedient to God, these things will happen to you. You will be thrown out of heaven, and those who are obedient will stay in the presence of God. This is how it is shown, through bringing up a contrast between evil and good characters. And what is the result of disobedience? They are thrown into a horrible place, the place which is a dungeon, horrible on all sides, as one great furnace flamed, yet from those flames no light but darkness visible. So darkness is the result of disobedience to God, and heaven and light and goodness is the result if you are obedient to God. This is how John Milton speaks about the importance of obedience to God, being obedient to God. This is how first theme can be seen in the beginning part of book 1. Later, we will look at the second theme, which is important. There is a hierarchy between hell and heaven. There is a constant hierarchy. Why this hierarchy is made? This hierarchy is made to show that hell is bad and heaven is good. Heaven is above and hell is below, and it is both of these places, heaven and hell, are meant for certain kinds of people. The good angels will stay in heaven, and bad angels will stay back in hell, and it is a place meant for the bad people, right? And that is why the descriptions of hell are given by John Milton, contrasting them with the heaven, which is exactly opposite to the descriptions of hell. So there are descriptions of hell, as I have said before. There are some lines dedicated to the description of hell. Through these descriptions, he is creating a hierarchy and is showing that hell is a horrible place, and this horrible place is meant for evil characters only. We see that even among the evil characters, Satan and others, they have this feeling of loss when they fall into hell, which is a horrible place, but they remember their previous place in heaven. They remember the brightness, the light, the glory of heaven, and feel pity on themselves, at least in the beginning. When they look at the surrounding place in hell, they too feel bad, and they too tend to compare hell with heaven. And at some point, Satan even says, no matter if we have lost the position in heaven now, we are supposed to dwell in hell, but that is for a temporary time. We have to go back to the heaven. This clearly shows that heaven is always a better place and hell is always the worst place. Thereby creating hierarchy, John Milton gives a lot of importance to heaven, signifying heaven with goodness, God, grace, providence and beauty, and hell with the symbol of darkness, ignorance, pride and the other human vices. Heaven represents all the virtues, whereas hell represents all the vices. The descriptions of hell show how this hierarchy is developed by John Milton in this book 1. The line, awake, arise, or be forever fallen. This is a line number 330, taken from Satan's speech. This itself shows that even though he is now the ruler of hell, he looks at this place as if it is a horrible place. Although he has accepted that it is his new place, Satan is not satisfied with it. That's why he asks them, awake, arise, which means we have to go beyond this level of hell and reach that previous level of heaven. Ideally, they want heaven, but their nature does not allow them to leave hell. Their nature, their ugly nature, their wicked thoughts always keep them in hell, although they desire for heaven. So this comparison also shows the irony of expectation and reality. This is the reality for evil characters, whereas their expectation is this, but which is not possible for them to go to heaven because of their evil nature. I will shift back to this theme for a brief time. In the theme of obedience to God, he also implies to show the goodness and mercy of God on others. The lines roughly between 365 to 375 show the goodness of God. That God, even though these evil angels disobeyed the order and law of God, God was so merciful that he gave them the position of deities in the next life, in their later times. This shows that God is ever great. God is omnipotent, omniscient. Next is the theme of rebellion and revenge. The thoughts of revenge are constantly seen in the speech of Satan, and which are also shown by the other characters who are the followers of Satan. And there is a constant struggle. Satan is restless because he has that rebellious spirit. It is this rebellion itself which has led them to the downfall into hell, but they are not ready to leave their rebellious nature. This rebellious nature also reflects the contemporary political situations across the world. Rebellious nature is there to oppose the man in the center of power. In the same way, Satan here has now lost the powerful position. That's why he is rebelling against God, and this rebellion is fueled by the struggle and the greed for power. So if you look at this Paradise Lost, you can also think of the political angle to this poem. Paradise Lost is not just a religious poem, not just a poem of knowledge, man's disobedience, but it is also the poem of political strife and struggle for power. And the thoughts of revenge. Constant revenge is the only motive of Satan. The revenge is to be taken against his arch enemy, and that revenge can be taken through proper as well as improper means. he makes it very clear in his speech that he wants to fight against God through force, that is through using his army, or even by guile, that is even by cheating. He wants to complete his revenge against God. Why this revenge? It is because the God has thrown him out of heaven and he wants to take back the position in heaven. So the thoughts of revenge. The thought of revenge does not only live in the mind of Satan, but he instills this thought in his followers' minds as well. Thereby, Satan emerges out to be a good, a proper leader for the evil angels. The next theme that is prominently seen is the evil nature. As I said, book 1 speaks a lot of things about evil nature. The intentions of Satan are absolutely clear, wherein he says to make bad out of good is our ultimate aim. Look at these lines. Fallen cherub, to be weak is miserable, doing or suffering, but of this be sure, to do aught good never will be our task. We shall never do good, and he is proud. Satan is proud of his evil nature, and this evil nature, and later in these lines it is again reflected, but ever to do ill our soul delight. That means Satan is shown to be a sadist. A sadist is the one who inflicts pain upon others and feels happy out of that pain given to others. So in one way, this Satan is absolutely a sadist character, and he is proud of his evil nature. He is confirmed, he is determined to do ill all the time. He never wants to do good, and he never wants to be in good books of others. And this shows that he is not a hypocrite. Outwardly he does not show that he is good or he wants to do something good. Inwardly he does bad. No. Outwardly, outspokenly, he is evil and is proud of his evil nature. Later, in one of the later speeches, he also says how we can show our evil nature to God by destroying God's creation, which he plans to make further. Like he wants to create earth or paradise and then implant a race of human generation. We will destroy that human generation, thereby inflict pain upon God and even on the human race. So here again his evil nature is outspoken in book number 1. Then in the lines wherein the other fallen angels are described, lines between 395 to roughly about 500, all these lines describe the other characters like Moloch, Chemos, and Beelzebub, Mammon, Astoreth, Tammuz, Dagon, Rimmon. All these characters as well are evil angels, and these all represent vices in humans, vices in the nature such as lust, greed, criminal attitude, and so on. Even rebellious nature. All these are considered as vices, and these fallen angels represent the vices in the vices which are nothing but evil nature found in humans. And again, they all unite together. This union of all the fallen angels also represents the evil nature that is imbibed in them in depth of their hearts. Okay, all of them, not just Satan or Beelzebub, but all of them are bent upon doing evil things. So evil nature is a constant theme in book number 1. Fifth theme is a little symbolic. Creation of pandemonium is another important theme which is symbolically found in book number 1. Now, creation of pandemonium, the temple of evil spirits, comes only in the last part. But right from the beginning, if you look at book 1, the dialogues of Satan, the dialogues or the conversation between Satan and Beelzebub, it already has created a lot of chaos in the hell. Hell itself is a chaotic place. Hell is the place where you don't find any kind of peace or any kind of goodness. Hell itself is already a pandemonium. Pandemonium is nothing but a place of chaos, a place of inorderliness, a place where everything is disturbed. So right from the beginning, you see that pandemonium is being created slowly by Satan, who speaks out loudly in hell. He inspires his fellow angels to do bad things, how they all come and clashing their weapons against each other. They make lot of noise in the hell. So pandemonium is already being created right from the beginning of book 1. Ultimately at the end, it is given a name called pandemonium, and it becomes a symbolic structure when they want to build a temple. Temple for what? Temple for exhibiting their evil nature. And obviously they all come in multitudes. When they all come in multitudes, naturally it will be a chaotic place. So pandemonium is a symbolic word used for the descriptions of hell. All the descriptions of hell as well contribute to the creation of pandemonium in the minds of readers. Only at the end we find it is constructed as a concrete reality for the evil spirits. And this pandemonium becomes a symbol of evil powers. As I said in the last lecture, the construction of temple becomes a matter of power or the exhibition of power and richness for the people. In the same way, creation of this concrete temple, pandemonium, is important for Satan because it directly shows that he is the ruler there and he has power of his command. And then this sixth important theme, that is struggle for power, is constantly seen in book 1, especially the lines in Satan's speech when he says, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Here we may reign secure, and in my choice to reign is worth ambition, though in hell. Although we are in hell, we shall be our own rulers. I shall be a ruler, I shall be a king. So what he wants is power, no matter if it is in heaven or hell. He wants the powerful position. He does not want to submit himself or yield himself to the God. Although he has lost in the war, he does not accept his defeat so easily. He wants to wage war once again. So the restlessness in the mind of Satan shows that he wants power and he is struggling a lot. The whole struggle to be a powerful man once again, powerful angel once again, is shown in the descriptions of book 1. How he calls and how does he create his power? Not alone or not single-handed. To be powerful means to be able to rule someone, right? To be in the place of power means to hold the kingship or to hold the reins of the state, and he alone cannot create power. So in the beginning we find that he is absolutely restless when he sees his fellow angels fallen like dead bodies in the burning lake. He is restless. He wants them to come up and support him, who will be the king. And one more line or one more episode which makes it very clear that Satan wants power at any cost. Look at that. Be it so, since he who now is sovereign can dispose and bid what shall be right. Farthest from him is best, whom reason hath equalled. Force hath made supreme above his equals. Farewell, happy fields. To gain power, to be a king, he is even ready to sacrifice heaven, which he has already lost. Farewell, happy fields, where joy forever dwells. Hail horrors, hail infernal world, and thou profoundest hell, receive thy new possessor. He is declaring already that he is the new king of hell. This is how he is absolutely power thirsty, power hungry. And to show his power, he needs lot of people around him on whom he can have a control. So when he is talking to Beelzebub, when there is a conversation happening between Satan and Beelzebub, we find that Satan is restless. That's why he calls others so that they can be his followers. And he shall be the only king of hell. This is how we see that these are the prominent themes. I have explained in brief. When you read the whole text of book 1, you will find the relevance of these themes into the lines of poetry. You will have to justify these themes with the help of lines from the text of book 1. So these are the prominent themes that are found in book 1, and some of the themes are also continued in book number 2, book number 3, and the rest of the books that follow the chain. So with this discussion about the themes, I shall end this lecture. In the next lecture, we will look at the prominent character of Satan and then discuss about the minor characters. Of course, throughout the book of Paradise Lost, if we consider all the 12 books, there are other characters as well, like Adam, Eve, God the Father, God the Son, then the other angels, good angels of God. But in book 1, only these are the characters who come into the action, and these are portrayed absolutely well by John Milton. So in the next class, I will focus on the character of Satan, and then by now you have already come to understand how is the nature of Satan, but we will just briefly look at this character again, and then we will analyze the other followers of Satan as well, and then we can look at some of the other aspects related to this epic and conclude our discussion. So that's all for this lecture. Thank you. Have a good day.